laptop won't boot, or you're just tired of your current setup, or you're just looking for tech support, the Dot Experiment is the only way to go. Call them today, 404-259-1343, or you can email them at support@thedotexperiment.com for a free consultation. Don't waste your money buying tech stuff and tech software that you don't understand and don't know how to use. Contact the Dot Experiment, the professionals in fixing all your stuff, man. So before you buy that cell phone, before you get that computer, contact the Dot Experiment. It's the only way to go. I'm telling you, that's how we roll it over here.
Give it to me, do it to me, give it to me. Don't stop, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. The way you make me.
Do you like music like this? That's right, I'm asking you. Do you like music like this? Then why have you not been to Sophisticated Saturday as yet? That's right, each and every third Saturday of the month, we call it Sophisticated Saturdays. Where we keep it at? Caribbeanlifetv Studios. 6254 Memorial Drive is the only place to be each and every third Saturday of the month. So if you want to celebrate your birthday, if you just want to come hang out and have some fun with grown people having big fun, Sophisticated Saturdays is the only place to be. It's brought to you by yours truly, DJ Reds, and my boy, Mr. B. Sophisticated Saturdays, every third Saturday of the month, 6254 Memorial Drive is where the grown people go and have good, clean fun. Every third Saturday of the month, man. The way you make me feel, I'm just going to have fun. I'll see you there. Sophisticated Saturdays. I got you.
It's the annual Independence Ball and Scholarship Awards presented by the Atlanta Jamaican Association in collaboration with the AJ Cultural and Educational Fund, Inc. Saturday, August 10, 2024, Atlanta Airport Marriott Gateway Hotel, 2020 Convention Center Concourse, College Park, Georgia, 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. Celebrate Jamaica's 62nd year as an independent nation and support higher education of the next generation. Enjoy delectable food, music from the SWAT Band, and electrifying performance from Jamaica Festival legend Roy Rayon.
I have got this feeling, a very high feeling.
Music by Mikey Sparkle Production with DJ Cold Rice on the ones and twos. Keynote speaker Keisha Thorpe, Nobel Prize educator, Global Teacher 2021, and National Teachers Hall of Fame inductee. Hosted by Will Hart. Early bird 135 to July 1, 145 after. Scan the QR code for hotel and tickets. Call 404-777-9593 or visit AtlantaJamaicanAssociation.org. Sponsors Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, GB Roofing Inc., Metals and Materials Engineers, Couples Resorts Jamaica, and PNC.
Attention Atlanta, get ready for an unforgettable experience at the Gap Meets Atlanta Caribbean Block Party and Hurricane Borough Disaster Relief Fundraiser. This is going to be at Stonecrest Distillery, 2520 Park Central Boulevard, Suite D, Stonecrest, Georgia. This event is supported by the Barbados Consulate in Miami and proudly sponsored by Caribbean International Shipping Services, the BTMI, Arabia Mountain Alliances, the Stonecrest Distillery, and Vital Infused Therapy. Join us for a day of fun, food, culture, and compassion as we come together to support the Caribbean islands affected by Hurricane Beryl. Bring your donations to our event and help our Caribbean neighbors rebuild and recover. If you want that full VIP experience for just $50, send your payment via Zelle to info@ubig246.org. And don't forget, include your name and your email address. It all happens at the Gap Meets Atlanta Caribbean Block Party and Hurricane Beryl Disaster Relief Fundraiser. Don't miss out on this incredible day of fun, unity, and celebration. See you there, Atlanta. Let's make a difference. Let me get your attention, please. Everyone get ready for another spectacular event celebrating Caribbean culture and fashion. Join us on July the 21st at the JVC Event Hall in Stone Mountain, Georgia for the Caribbean Paper Apparel Culture Show, featuring the amazing VI Heritage dancers. This event promises a night filled with vibrant performances, stunning fashion, and a rich Caribbean heritage. For ticket information, call 770-710-4462 or 317-514-9961. Don't miss out on this unforgettable cultural experience. That's right, the Caribbean Paper Apparel Culture Show is going down on July the 21st at the JVC Event Hall in Stone Mountain, Georgia.
Hey, greetings, family. Welcome to the Alkebulan radio show. And we are delighted to have a special guest with us today, Brother Wayne Downer. He is an ordained minister and much more. And after we do our opening, I will allow him to introduce himself. First, I would like to acknowledge that the Soul Brothers are not with me today in the studio. Brother Wayne is actually someone who they booked for the show. They are participating in the Atlanta African Dance and Drum Festival today, taking classes, continuing to hone in on their professional musician skills. But they did want me to give you a shout out, Brother Wayne. And they also sent this specific song because this is the King's Corner. This special segment every third Saturday is called the King's Corner. And that particular rhythm that we heard is dedicated to the strong men in the village. And so we give thanks for that. And as we should do and as we always do, we first and foremost give thanks and praises to the Almighty Creator. So we give thanks to the Almighty Creator, the highest of high, the divine spirit that exists within all creation. We give thanks for this day and for the many blessings and miracles and favor in our life. We give thanks for those who are listening over the airwaves and those who are working behind the scenes in the studio. We ask that each and every person who is listening today be inspired and motivated to be a better version of themselves and without apology to shine their light brightly in the world. We acknowledge our ancestors who lived a life so that we could have an easier way. Those who came before us paved the way so that we can stand on their shoulders and have the life that they dreamed to live. We also give thanks for our elders, for their wisdom and their guidance and their perseverance. And we give thanks for the youth who are our future and for those children who are yet to come. We acknowledge, we declare, decree, and affirm that we each and every day will live a life where we are a witness and a testimony to goodness and righteousness. And we know that good always conquers evil. And with that, we give thanks. We say amen, ashe, namaste, adupwe, alafia. So greetings again, family. And I would like to share some affirmations. I actually prepared affirmations for today because recently it was on my heart that it was more important for me to make it more thematic. So these are affirmations for anyone, but specifically for men. The first affirmation is, I believe in myself and my potential for greatness. And if you have an opportunity, please speak over yourself and say those words even in the mirror. I am capable of overcoming challenges and achieving all my goals. I am always headed in the right direction. I am open to learn and embrace infinite possibilities. And in honor of Baba Yoga Bay, as he would always say, and I know that everything is in divine order. And so, with that, we are complete with our affirmations, and we are happy to have Brother Wayne, Reverend Wayne, in the studio with us today. Welcome, my brother. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a long time coming, so I'm happy to be here. Hopefully, whatever I share will help other men to grow within themselves. And I like the first affirmation, always first believe in yourself, that you can do anything. So I'm happy to be here.
Yes, we are delighted to have you. June was a very busy month for my family and myself, and so I took a month off, and I met Brother Wayne through my sons in May, and he was very patient about allowing me to schedule him for a later date. We found out that we have twins in common. We're both parents of twins. We call them Ibejis in African culture, and in African places, if not, I will say most places, parents of twins are honored like superheroes, superstars, and it's been a blessing for me to be a parent of twins. And today our topic is based on eldership and the importance in our culture of honoring and taking care of our elders. One of my hashtags is always respect the elders. I know some people, they feel like you have to earn the respect. And my thing is, if you survived and you lived long enough on the planet to call yourself an elder and not an old fool, you deserve much respect. And not just the respect, but also for us to take care of our elders. So
I totally agree with that. I grew up around mostly the older folks, and I always tell people, they always ask me, why you're always with these old folks? I said, because they have wisdom that we need to learn from them in order for us to be better persons.
absolutely. Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how we came across agreeing on this topic.
My name is Wayne Downer. I was born in Jamaica of parents, mom and dad, William Downer and Olive Jones Downer. I we agreed on this topic because grew up I grew up around the old folks, and I've always have great appreciation for them. Wanted to be able to help in any way I possibly can as a youngster. My mom was over a golden age singing ministry. I was a little
Okay.
boy at that time, probably about 11, 12, and every night she goes out to the rehearsal because she was in charge of it. I was there with them. So when they go out to sing, I was always in the front of all these old folks singing with them. And because of that, I had a love for music. My dad was also a disc jockey, so I was able to listen music from different walks of life. I fell in love with the R&B and the gospel. For reggae, it was just Bob Marley, Peter
Okay.
Tosh, Bunny Whalers. Those were the reggae singers that I loved to listen to. So,
All right. Oh, that's interesting how you coined it a singing ministry
yes.
because there is something very therapeutic about singing. And I read a statistic a while ago, so I can't quote it exactly, but it was said that you live longer, people who sing live longer. And I know being a mom of musicians, sometimes I feel like the only thing they hear is music. And so oftentimes I feel like instead of fussing, I need to sing. Like make up your bed,
It's funny you say that
take out the
because
trash.
my friends always said, why you always find everything you have to sing about it? And I was like, well, music is definitely therapeutic. Going through loss of both parents, being here, not able to see them, going home to even say goodbye, music was what kept me. I remember when my mom passed away, I was driving down 285, and for some reason, I was listening to Carrie Underwood
Okay.
um, music, and when it got to the one, Jesus Took the Wheel, I burst out in tears with my eyes closed. I let go the steering of the car wheel with my hands up in the air, and I said, God, only you alone can take this wheel, because I can't do it by myself. You know,
Yes.
and it has been music that really kept me going. Um, through every situation that I've gone through, music is always what speaks to me. So
Yes.
it is definitely therapeutic, and I just love to sing.
All right. I'm grateful for that. It's important that we consider what tools we can use for our mental, emotional, and spiritual health. We talked about physical health last week, but mental health is really key in our community. We don't discuss it enough, and oftentimes because we don't discuss it, we don't understand or understand how to process it. And so, like whenever I'm going through like a rough patch in my life, I will create a playlist to speak to that. And when I'm in places with people, and there's like a joyous fellowship, sometimes songs just pop in my head. It'll be like a phrase that someone will say, and then a song will come. And so for me, having a song in my heart is a testimony of joy and the true feeling of being alive and fellowship. It's a form of worship to be able to commune with the divine spirit of the creator. Nature has a song. You know, the world is never quiet.
No, no. I've oftentimes will be just even while I'm at work thinking about stuff that I'm going through, and music would just pop into my head.
Yes.
And I wish sometimes that I've written some of these songs that the Spirit would give to me, because I would just start singing them and just giving praise to God. So
Yes.
music is definitely therapeutic. And as you said, a lot of times as black, we do not talk about mental problems. We talk about everything else but the mental. And my church, we recently just have a class for men who suffer mental problems that
Okay.
are not able to speak about it, because as men, everybody expects us to be strong, expect us to be able to conquer anything, and not knowing that as men we do face and go through things as well.
Yes, that's a really good resource. I feel like the church is a place where liberation and healing can happen. And being raised in the church, being a PK, my dad, the church ran every day. There was not one day that the church was not closed. There was always social programs available. So I'm glad to hear that about your church. What's the name of the church?
I attend Berean Christian Church, and that's the one
Okay.
of Stone Mountain and
And
Young
Young
Road.
Road. Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Been there 13 years.
Okay.
And I got to Berean just passing it one day after I decided to walk away from the ministry that I was ordained in. I saw it and I was like, okay, I never like a big church really, but this one would be able to hide me away from everything else. Because after I left the one I was with, I used to visit other churches in we are affiliated with, but every time I walk in, being an ordained minister, they would call me straight to the podium. And I believe in that one should able to be healed from whatever they're dealing with versus
Right.
going to the front and speaking to others with what you're dealing with. Spirit goes, spirit flies. So I believe that one should be able to be at that headspace and right place, that when you speak, you're speaking with a spirit of joy, happiness that will flush into others' life.
Yes, that's powerful for me because what can happen is compassion burnout when you're used to being in service, especially when it's generational. Like you were saying, your mom was in service around the singing ministry. So I've been paying attention to that the level of self-care. And as the topic today is, why is it so important to take care of our elders? I feel like in our culture, that is an integral part of our culture, is not letting the circle be unbroken. That we know, for us to put our parents or our loved ones in a nursing home is really like a last resort where you just really can't manage it, and for the safety of the elder, and better care, it's done as a last resort. And what I notice is that we actually save the government tons of money because of the fact that we take care of our elders, and people who are like home health aides, CNAs. A lot of times it's useful for family members to get that type of certification so that they can actually create an income, not as the first motivating factor, but to help assist, because a lot of times you're changing your life over to help the elders. And I think that it's key that we talk about things being set in place and in motion early on, like plans. What is the plan for when an elder gets to a certain age? And recently, one of our esteemed elders, Baba Yoga Bay, when he passed, his biological children weren't here, but he treated my sons as his sons. He was a parent of twins as well. And what he was not able to pour into his own biological children, he poured into mine, their father and mine.
I think they did spoke about it when I picked them up that day. I had asked them, "How's your day going?" And they both said, "Not so good." They have this gentleman that is not doing so well. So, and when they spoke about it, I said, "Okay, that is beautiful because he's not their parents, and they felt so attached that it makes them move emotionally." So, it is always good to have other people that you care for, people who take care of you. Like I said, I've always gone around. My mom was the same. She was always around. She was also an ordained minister. She was a pastor of a ministry. My grandfather was also a pastor. So, to tell you the truth, when I first got the vision and the word from God, I was like, "Okay, God, you're crazy. There's no way I'm going to become a preacher. Tell me I'm going to sing and win souls for you. Tell me I'm going to just share testimony with people and it will help them to, gravitate to you. But to preach, nah, there's no way that's going to happen." I ran for 20 years. God literally threatened to take me out, and that was when I gave in to what he wanted me to do.
I laugh with you and not at you. I'm thinking of Jonah and the whale.
Yep, I was like Jonah, but I ran longer than Jonah did. Actually got ordained 20 years later. And it was when I was praying about my marriage, and the Lord showed me pastor in a church and my wife being the assistant, and I was like, okay, this is a weird way to show me that we belong together. But afterwards, I was like, nah, not me preaching. I found out after we got married that her pastor was training her to be a youth evangelist. So I said, okay, she's the one and not me.
Okay, it started making more sense.
But it was definitely me and her as well.
I was thinking that.
Trying
to put it all on her, like the
right,
vision wasn't
I
real.
want to push the job off and give it to her. She was also ordained the same day I was ordained as an evangelist. So
it's beautiful.
So we both got ordained the same day. Actually, flew her up because she was still in Jamaica while I was here.
Okay.
So I flew her up in order to be at the ordination, and it was the same day that my pastor decided she was going to ordain her as an evangelist.
Oh, that's powerful. That's that power couple
So she didn't even know it was going to happen. I didn't know until she got here. My pastor decide, she ordained her as well the same day.
All right, that's divine order.
So
Yes. So, to the topic at hand, I do want to acknowledge that some people didn't grow up with grandparents. Like, I grew up with my grandparents. I actually had a third set because my grandparents were so important to me that when my parents moved from Philadelphia to North Carolina, my parents were going to seminary at the time. I met a lady, Willie Ann Winchester, and I asked her to be my grandmother. She had 4 grandsons and had never had a granddaughter.
wow.
And my grandmother, she took me fishing. That lady could fish. I hated the worms, but I had, my cousin Avery Winchester that would hook the worms on there for me. And I always caught lots of fish. She would go home, clean it, cook it. She had the garden in the backyard, and she lived next to also 2 elderly people. And there was a man by the name of Mr. Charlie Thomas. And this was before, like, America's Funny Videos came out. And he trained his dogs. He had hunting dogs. And he trained his dogs to sing, dance, and pray. And every day when I was at my grandmom's house, especially in the summers I was there, like, every day, I begged Mr. Charlie to please let me help him feed the dogs. And he would bring all his dogs out, and he would start singing Amazing Grace, and they would start dancing and howling up. And then he would say, now let's pray. And they would cock like one paw, like bend it, and kneel their head down, and they would not move for the food until he said
praise God.
amen.
Wow.
And I love me some Mr. Charlie, even though, my grandmom was influential in my life. Her next door neighbor was a grandfather figure to me. Her husband, Grandpa Richard, he was like a real quiet, silent type of man. But I loved their relationship because she was like so strong. And he was okay with, being the cool guy in the background, and still being a strong, silent leader type. But that Mr. Charlie, every day I had to help Mr. Charlie feed his dogs. And I have had a rich life with my elders, like my mother's mother, speaking to her every day, talking to her on the phone for hours, never running out of things to talk about, getting advice on raising my children. I remember calling her mommy. And I know some other people have had that kind of relationship with their grandparents. But for those who did not have that relationship, I implore you and inspire you to seek out your elders, like Baba Yoga Bay. When my children, all their grandparents passed away, in a short amount of time, we always had Baba. And they spent at least one night a week was the goal at his house, and we would send them food. And, they had to do chores at Baba's house. And they barely want to do chores at my house. So the fact that, they would go to Baba's house and help him. And, sometimes elders, they can, be a little patient. And then sometimes they could be a little short. So learning how to, deal with our elders and showing them that love is an action word, to me was a really key part of building the character of my children. And I do believe that grandparents help build the character up in a different way. I was taught by an elder, just, randomly sometimes, we entertain angels unaware when strangers come in our midst. And this elder told me once, he said, in Africa, we always have the grandparents take care of the youth, because the grandparents have more patience and they have more wisdom. And the parents are supposed to work. And then after you work and you become a grandparent, now your role is to take care of the children. And so, worrying about who's going to babysit, child care. I mean, child care is so expensive in America that by the time you work a job, it makes more sense to stay home. And I know as a mother, it's like they want us to work like we don't have children, but then we need to raise our children like we don't have any other work to do.
It's funny that you make mention on that. I remember when I moved here and brought my family here, I had to make a choice because back home, I took the time out for every school activities that my kids have, at least,
Wonderful.
at least a special event. Like my kids were into track and field,
Okay.
so growing up, they would come home from school when they knew they have a sport event, and they would run around my father's property because that was where I was living when I got married and moved back home to my parents. My dad had a big piece of property, so he gave me a spot to build a home on.
That's
However,
beautiful.
being there when Highway 2000 decided to come through, it passed through my father's property. So that section that I built on was removed. And that was how I got my home. But while we were there, they would come and just running around the big old property. And I would shout out, Renee, Shanae, stop running. You're going to hurt yourself. No, Daddy, we got to run. We got to prepare ourselves for race. And they would come in every race they run. It's either first or second. The only time
Beautiful.
they end up run in anything together is when they're, and the lucky thing, they were always on the same in the same house, so it makes their house win every time. And I remember one day being at their event, a parent shout out, "No more twin race!" I say, "You're gonna leave me pitney alone," because that's what we
That's
call
right.
children in Jamaica, pitney.
That's right.
So it was always fun being there. But moving them here, I realized it's not the same. You gotta make a choice. And when I moved them here, I moved them out of a home that I prepare,
Right.
provide. And being here, seeing so many parents, so family being homeless on the street, I made a choice that I will not allow that to happen to my family, especially taking them away from something that I've always already provided. So I was made the decision that, hey, I'm not going to be able to come to every track meet, soccer match, because I got to provide.
Yes.
I worked 2, 3 jobs. In 1 year, actually 2 years straight, I was doing 3 jobs. I was at one by 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning till
Wow.
12, because I just go in, cook, organize everything. You know, I was a chef there, but I also make sure everything was structured, because being in the food industry, I'm very skeptic. Food contamination can be the simplest of thing. So I was into food safety a lot. And then leaving from there, I went to a school, an Adventist school, and did their prep work there for them.
Wow.
Then leave that job, head straight to Lawrenceville, and this was Kennesaw to
Ooh.
18 Ohms,
Oh,
20
yes, I know.
West.
Yes.
Then from 18 Ohms to Lawrenceville off Gresham Road to work at another restaurant, close out the night from 4 till 12 o'clock. After 1 in the morning sometime, I'm leaving there, heading home to Panola Road.
I'm barely getting 4 hours of rest based on your math.
So most days, especially during the week, I get out before my kids wake and I go back in while they were asleep. Thursday evening might be the only evening that I don't go to work, because I was a part of the choir. That's choir practice day. So I told my night job, I'm not working on Thursday. I never
Okay.
work on Sunday.
Okay.
So I those were the days, the evening that my kids would see me, and the day that they would see me. And I take that day on Sunday to recuperate, re-energize
Right.
after all that I was putting in for work. So a lot of times people don't understand, and sometimes your children don't get it, you know, but as parents, you have to make a sacrifice to make sure that you're able to provide
Yes.
versus to support. And that was a choice I made.
I like that comment, making a choice to provide versus support. And I think men, y'all have it so much different than women, you know, when it comes to the obligations, because we're raised that men are protectors and providers. And my dad used to talk about this whole presence of black men as fathers being present but yet absent. And sometimes the absence was not out of a lack of desire, but exactly for what you're saying.
Making a choice.
Yes. And then sometimes it was out of this entitlement that if I'm doing A and B, protecting and providing, then I don't have to do C or D. I don't have to, ever show up for the children because I'm out. And so carving out that time on Sunday for your youth, to me, is like that balance. It may not happen in a day, but it was in a week's time. And like for us, my father, he worked a lot. I would see him leaving at 7 in the morning, coming home at 11 o'clock at night. But he would do his best to come home for dinner every day. And I think Fridays and Saturdays we didn't do it, but Monday through Thursday he came home for dinner. And that was when we didn't have cell phones. So everybody that's with their families now, I noticed the cell phone is like an idol that we worship. Put the phone down and sit
Even
down
sitting
and
at
eat
the
with
dinner
your
table.
children.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even at the dinner table. And I'm like, it's sad that technology take over our life more than, and even being in the house. You're texting somebody inside the home versus just calling out to them. So
Yes, that's
it
true.
it is definitely sickening. So
Right. So yeah, we couldn't, answer the phone during dinner time. We had to talk about our day. My dad didn't like surprises, so if you had any like trouble with school, you better tell him before the teacher did, or you got into worse trouble. And those days were really important, but my dad also carved out time once a week on Wednesday to have lunch with me. And if he was busy, then once a month on Wednesdays it changed. So my dad, he dated all his daughters because he felt like it was very important for us to have a high standard of how we should be treated by, our husbands when we were, dating for marriage. So I think about people who did not have their fathers in their life, people who did not have that mother or father. And once again, even if it's not your bloodline or lineage, there are elders out here. I know elders who they have done so much for their children, and their children do not show up for them. And I cannot for the life of me fathom how they, have an easy conscience with that. And I know people who have done a lot of sacrificing and they still need people to show up for them. I say adopt an elder just like we adopted Baba. And then the good thing about Baba was he loved up on a lot of different people. So when he passed away, when he became an ancestor, we had other people in the community that showed up to be our spirit family. And I gained family in Baba's passing. We just had a celebration for him last Sunday. I was fortunate enough to be the MC, the host for the event. And it was like a team of almost about 10 of us that brought that together. And we are family now because of the love that Baba had for us all. That love now binds us and connects us. But our elders need people to cook for them. A lot of times they're not eating the same way. Like your body doesn't need food as much when you're older. But last week, my guest Phil, he talked about how we need more protein the older we get. But if it's making smoothies, a salad packed with protein, elders need us to clean their homes for them because a lot of times they get older.
can do.
Yes, and their dignity. I remember Baba had so much pride, so much dignity. They don't like to ask for help. And you must just seek it out. I feel like this in my friendships with my loved ones. If I know that I have a friend in need, I don't have to wait for them to ask me. I will also anticipate needs for the people that I care about, and that is needed for our elders. This whole thing about them being in the senior living buildings here in Atlanta, it's really unique because we need the interaction. My grandmother talked about how the youth, kept her young. She was still taking care of great grandchildren, always baked a cake and put it in the freezer to be fresh, and always had that Arnold Palmer lemonade iced tea mix. She was the one who said she made it up and should have been rich from it. But it was just those trademark things. Like, I knew Grandma Winchester always would have homemade orange marmalade and homemade biscuits for me. You know, like, it's these little trademark things. Baba, his thing was everything is in divine order. You know, we've got the power, you know, always having these affirmations, praying and meditating over us. And so there's just a style that an elder brings, a different flavor to our life. It's like when you have a recipe to cook a meal and you're missing that spice, that season. That's what the elders bring. They bring that, you know, that one thing that was missing. So we have to find a way to make sure that our youth continue to get exposed to the elders. This society has taken us away from that.
My grandmother, as I said, I started out in the food industry when I was 16. My grandmother was one of my teacher. My mom was my teacher. I was 9 when my mom started putting me in the kitchen with her. At 12, once I got in from school, I leave my backpack on the veranda, which we call it now porch here, and in a corner, went in, took my uniform off, because in Jamaica we go to school in uniform all the way up to high school. And then even college, back home, some college, you got to dress in a certain clothes in order to go through. Lately, it has changed. But back then, and when I got in, take that uniform off, I'd walk in the kitchen, and she said, look at the bottom of the fridge, you see I take out meat, blah, blah, blah. This is what is going to be prepared today. And if I go in and nothing, she said, see what we got and plan a menu.
Oh, that's right.
And that's how I started creating dish. So,
wow,
food became my lifeline. I wanted to become a teacher. Back then, it was not always easy for students to make it through school versus some. And my dad let me know he didn't have it, send me back to school, so I went into the work world. Luckily, I fell in love with food, and that was my second choice.
Okay.
That was how I started. And I started at this little Jamaican restaurant, which was the #1 seafood restaurant on the North Coast in Trelawney.
Ooh.
And that's called Glistening Waters.
Okay.
You Google Glistening Water, it has one of the luminous lagoon, which is located in 3 places in the world,
Okay.
where the water glows at night. And I didn't realize it about it until working there. I went down one night. I went back because I told my boss, I said, is it okay for me to come back tonight and help out if needed? She said, sure. And after work that night, I walked down the seaside because we were right on the seafront, the restaurant. And people were throwing stone in the water, and I noticed it glow. And I said, why is the water? They say it glows at night. I was like, really? And every night after that, I would go down, take my shoes and socks off, and just dangle my feet in the water, watch it glow.
That's beautiful.
So food is very interesting. And when you learn a lot from your older folks, it makes you better, because
Yes, it does.
they're departing wisdom into you. And because of that, I was always just eager to be around older folks. The younger folks used to tell me, you're so stuck up. Y'all don't have nothing to do. Sitting on the street corner talking a bunch of rubbish. I don't have time for that. I need to learn something more. That way I can have a better understanding of life and a better way to lead my family when they come along.
That's true. I remember studying the Bible as a youth and always being skeptical about the New Testament because of the respect that I have for my elders. I said, why would I not listen to the prophets who walk with the Creator for really Methuselah lives to be like 1,000, so we're talking about decades and hundreds of years. And then, the brothers who walk with Christ, so called, were like 3-year apostles, 3-year disciples. So I always lean towards studying the Old Testament as my book of history and inspiration, because I felt like if I'm going to listen to someone about their walk with the Creator, it's going to be my elders, the prophets who, walk for days from the times of old. And so I always felt that way, always was around older people for that reason. And I'd also know that the elders can see things on you, like that special gift you have, that thing you need to work on. Baba was always inspiring me to have more balance in my life, make sure I meditated. And sometimes I would get anxious about time management. And he said, I need you to just slow down. I need you to calm down, because when you get anxious, that makes me anxious. And it never dawned on me how that energy of, I got to hurry up and get there, I'm in the rat race mode right now, how it impacts other people. But when Baba told me that it was having an impact on him, and I knew that I was charged with taking care of my elder, it was no light business for me to manage myself and be more self-aware. I needed to know that when Baba was in my presence, the peace that he exuded, that I could give it to him in return, and that he didn't have to be in my car wondering if this child is going,
speed down the road.
Yeah, run through the red light or something. And it helped me. It helped me be more aware with other people. Sometimes it was just the smallest thing that my mother and father would say to me, like my mom would say, reason, season, or a lifetime. And that was my lesson with my growing pains and relationships with people. Reason, season, or lifetime. Some people come for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And you will always know by the time this story unfolds which one it is, or sometimes it could be more than one.
I listened to a clip on Instagram the other day, and it said, if you are friends with somebody for 7 years, that means that person is going to be in your life for a lifetime.
Okay.
And my best friend year, it has going 16 years. I'll be here 17 years, August coming, here in Atlanta.
Okay.
And he was my support. I'm back today when I brought my family here. So having to have somebody in your life that no matter what you're dealing with, what you're going through, never cease to pull back, then you have a friend for a lifetime. And I believe in friendship. Yes, it is said that some people are in your life for a reason, for a season. And as Medea said, when it's over, let it go. Because you hold on to things that is already ended, it sets you back. And it will destroy you.
That's true.
So I believe in letting go and moving forward in order for you to not be destroyed. So
That's
elders are very important to me, and I commend my sisters. My baby sister who did most of the care for both our parents, my mom and my dad, during their sickness. My mom, she left us, she was 63, and my baby sister, ever since we found out she had cancer, was the one that was there taking care of her at home. My dad, the same thing. So both my parents, I lost them through cancer. And having to walk away from the food industry for a period of time, went into home health care. And how I got into it, a friend of mine from back home, I call him Daddy. As I said, you got to adapt different parents. One when I got married, he was like a spiritual father to me, guiding me, being young, growing up in ministry. And he called me one day. I was just over it with the job I was at. And I remember saying, God, I gotta get out. I'm a no nonsense person. And you come at me, I'm gonna go back at you with the same energy. And I decided, Wayne, as a leader, as a preacher, you gotta change certain strategy in order to be better, to show forth that there's better ways to handle things. That so I started ignoring some things, and when I speak calm versus aggressive. I'm a Sagittarian person,
Okay.
so we go strong at whatever we do, whatever we say. We're gonna come strong at it. And sometimes people take me talking with authority that God has given me as a man of authority. Sometimes people take it for aggressiveness. So I decided, okay, let me have a different approach on how I respond to people. And I remember being at work one day and I just couldn't do it anymore. And I said, God, I've had enough. I don't know how you do it. I gotta get out of here. I got the phone call a couple weeks later from my spiritual daddy. I call him Daddy Nelson. And he said to me, you remember this gentleman that always come up and go to New York to take care of? I said, yeah. I said, he needs somebody now, and I can't. Because he was now in the process of his being migrated from Jamaica, and he was unable to travel. He said, can you do it? I said, yes. Without any question asked, I just said yes, because I needed a way out of where I was. I eventually fell out of love for food,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yes.
And that was just how this man was behaving.
It
That
does.
kind of turned me off. And he said, okay, I'm going to give the boss your number, so he's going to call you and he will talk to you about the whole logistic of what is expected, what will go down. And when that man called me and he spoke to me, he made his offer. I said yes. Even though I didn't think about the whole length of time or which days it's going to be, I just said yes. And I took it and I went. And I'm not lying. It gave me a different view on people who take care of their elders. It gave me a different view of people who work in the senior citizen living facility to take care of others. Not knowing how I was able to manage it, if I was going to be able to do it, but I decide if I have to last out the time that was going given to me, I'm going to last it out because I need to see this through. And going there, I was able to take care of a man who had a spinal injury. And this was his second one that left him unable to help himself in any way possible other from, he was barely able to hold a spoon to feed himself. And it gave me a different perspective on life and what it is just to be there to help others, because you don't know when the day is going to come when you can't do it for yourself and somebody will have to do it for you. You know, so I fell in love with home care, and coming back to Atlanta, being away for 2.5 months, almost 3, it was almost 3 months that I was there with him, taking care of him. And when I was about to leave, I said to him, thank you for this opportunity, you know, because it gives me different perspective on life. And able to be your caregiver for this period of time, I totally appreciate it. He said, no, thank you, because you made it so much easier for me, because it's as if you were doing this thing before, because when you came here, you just slide right in and you were on the roll. He said, I've had people come before and it was a problem for them to just do this, and it was some walk away after a couple days.
Yes, that happens.
So they can't do it. And for you to last it out, and you made so much difference being here for me, I thank you. So, you know, I look back on my sisters, my big sisters, the one that followed me, the baby. The baby was more of the hands-on off person. The others was just there supporting her in taking care and doing, help to provide. So I had a great appreciation for her even more. And some of my siblings say this, and saying this nationally, I have a greater love for my baby sister. We both grew up most of our time with our parents, while others were living with other family member. Till my mom decided, I want my kids home, and she bring us back home. 87 of us. I'm the fourth from my father, the third from my mother, and my mom see me as a protector, because when everybody move home, anybody pick on my siblings, I'm at war
Okay.
for them, So
Loyal.
I love them all, but my baby sister, she grabbed a piece of my heart so much, and they always said, everything Claudine, she's my heart. Like I said, she speaks my language, I speak her language. And I tell them, my mom, oldest child, which is my oldest sister, I see her as an idol.
Okay.
The way she always protect me. Because she grew up with my grandmother, my mom's mom, who also was a cook at a restaurant. So like I said, my mom and my grandmother was my teacher, first teacher in the food industry.
Okay.
My adopted mother, however, who was the first job I had, Patricia Hastings, she lives in Florida now. I call her mommy. She took me under wing at 16, and she teach me some more. I worked with that restaurant for 7 years. I left, went on to Sanders for another 7 years. So each step I learned more. Started culinary school, never get to finish it because job derailed me from it. So it is so much about being around people who influence your life, help you to grow in who you are and who you become. My dad, he was a big provider. We never see eye to eye, and lately I realized why. We have so much in common, so much about us that we hit heads. My relationship between my father and I grew started growing before my mom left. And after she left, he and I became the son and father we never had before. I've never heard my father say, son, I love you, until I was 40.
Wow.
And it was something I've yearned and longed for. So I made a point that every day I get up, I said to my girls, I used to call the twins Pumpkin, till they said, Daddy, I don't like that name, Pumpkin. So I started calling them baby girls. The baby, on the other hand, I call her Princess. And I always, before I walk out of the house, hey, baby girl, Daddy love you. Give them a hug, give them a kiss. And I remember one day I walk out, reached at the gate to go out, and I heard, Daddy, Daddy. I said, yeah, baby girl, you didn't give me my hug or my kiss. I had to turn back and go give it to them. So it is always good that you try to do certain things with your kids and allow them to feel love and that longing for parents to be there for them, so.
That's a beautiful testimony and tenderness. As we wrap up the show, some of the things that I thought about was, men who speak with authority, oftentimes that's misperceived as aggression. And then we don't always get a chance to see the soft side of our fathers and our brothers, that there should be an unspoken agreement that permission is given for men to be able to share their tender sides. And the last thing that I thought about was, the way that the Creator has designed our relationships with elders. One of the things that I notice is even with Alzheimer's, and when they have dementia and they forget the present day situation, they always remember the stuff that happened like 50, 60, 70 years ago. That's the history. And so it shows that even when an elder is in that capacity, that their value is still there. They still bring worth to the relationship of being around the youth and teaching them about history. And they say when, an elder passes away, a whole library is burned down because there's so much knowledge. And for people who didn't have relationships with their parents, it's okay. There's still elders out here who will love you and pour into you. And it's never too late to, reach out and build community amongst our elders. So we're going to close out with a song. Vibes Cartel has a song called The Good Father. And, it's a shout out to those dads, as you said, who, they was always at work. And it's like, where's my dad? Because daddy's at work, you don't always see him. But he's doing the things behind the scenes to make sure that you have the life that you need. And I just want to acknowledge all the men out there in the world who are striving each and every day to show up for their families and their communities. It's not something that's always acknowledged, and we just want to acknowledge and give thanks for the fathers today.
And if I should say in closing, children that still have their parents around, don't think about what didn't happen then. Make the effort to reach your parents wherever they are. You don't know what they've been going through, what they were going through. And a lot of times men do not speak up because they're afraid of what people are going to think of them being weak or not man enough. But they face with things that sometimes will allow them not to put that effort out in order to be the father we expect them to be sometimes. So your parents is still around, your grandparents is still around. You make that effort to reach them where they are. And fathers who are out there, if you think you had that shortcomings, you also can go ahead and reach out to your kids and let them know it's not that you didn't love or care, because you did. But you took a road like I did. I said I make a decision to provide so that they can have a better life, a better opportunity, versus to support, because when you support, that provision does not come in full.
Wow. Thank you for that powerful testimony, and I'm so grateful for this interview. It's always good to meet a man of honor, and so we acknowledge you, and we give thanks for your wife as well, because partnership and having healthy relationships in the Black community is really key. There is an attack on our families. There's an attack on marriages. There's an attack on our connection. Integration has created isolation, and we definitely want to bring our elders full circle into this conversation once again. Our elders don't deserve to be isolated, and I just want to encourage y'all to reach out and touch someone and make this world a better place, because we can. And remember to shine your light brightly into the world without apology. Know that you are important, you are needed, you have a purpose and a plan. And we thank you for listening to the Alkebulan radio show. This was the King's Corner. Until the next time, continue to live your life without apology and go out there and be great. Peace and love.
Long as I can remember, from me a little child, when me say, "Mommy, where me daddy gone?" She say, "I work on your daddy gone." Him left out from me in the morning, and him now come back till you know I am. When me say mommy where we daddy gone, she say I work with no daddy gone. Him left out from me in the morning, and him now come back till you know I am. This a for the good father, good father. This a for the good father, good father. Real man now run left him pick me them and left the burden pon the mother. This a for the good father, good father. This a for the good father, good father. Real man now run left him pick me them and left the burden pon the mother. Don't know say, big up the man them we mind them youth. You know fi spend $1 million and buy them suit mouth. No matter how the money small in a star, little something have to find them youth. Oh. As a father, you fi spend time with your son. Them we take up the crime then shoot. No careless daddy can't get me salute. Me love my father, that and the truth. Cause when me say mommy where we daddy gone, she say I work with no daddy gone. Him left out from me in the morning, and him now come back till you know I am. When me say mommy where we daddy gone, she say I work with no daddy gone. Him left out from me in the morning, and him now come back till you know I am. This a for the good